Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to some part of the world. My name is Prashant Nair, and we are back with another edition of the FIIOB podcast. Before I introduce my panel, I would like to remind you that please subscribe to our channel, which is the FIIOB, and also subscribe to FIIOB TV, where you can follow our live matches of our team. So today's podcast is very special, and I'll try to be as neutral as possible because it is one of those teams which I hate it. I'll not use the word hate. Hate is a very strong word, but I'll use the term dislike because growing up as a United fan, I absolutely can't stand Liverpool because of the rivalry, because of the history of both clubs. And I have two people who are going to support Liverpool and who are going to speak on behalf of Liverpool, which is Sai Sudeep and Kishlay. And supporting United would be Kushal and Sharad. So obviously you guessed it right. It's the big game. It's the Northwest Derby. And for United fans, it's a matter of fear because United are going to face Liverpool at home. It's not even away. If it was Anfield, we would have still be a little sure. But since it's a home game, it's going to be a cracker of a game because both teams have not had the greatest of seasons in terms of United. United are out of the Champions League. They're going to face Roma in a couple of hours in the Europa League. Which is not what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer planned at the start of the season. He obviously wanted to go ahead in the Champions League, but then things didn't work out. Europa League is one of those leagues where he's got a realistic chance of winning a trophy. And on the other hand, the Premier League is as done as dusted because Pep Guardiola's men have found the 10th gear in their squad where they just don't seem to give away. And on the other side is Liverpool. Apparently, when United fans all over the world said that it is easy to win one title, but it is very difficult to defend. And not a lot of teams defend titles. And Liverpool would have understood it in the first hand because you name whatever the reason you want. Injuries, in-form players suddenly going missing, lack of tactical adaptiveness by Klopp, lack of transfers by the club, etc., etc. You can name whatever reason you want, but Liverpool has been below par this season. At a point, they were at a stage where top four looked a little bit difficult. Even now, top four looks difficult, but not impossible. But the kind of form what Liverpool are in, United game becomes a must-win for them because so they can close the gap from the top four. Without much ado, I'll first go to Shaisudeep. Shaisudeep, correct me if I'm wrong. At one point of time, Liverpool fans completely lost hope with top four. You went to a stage where you said, just get rid of the season, finish wherever you want, just start the next season all over again, get the signings, etc., etc. But suddenly now, when you look at the Premier League, you're like, we have a shot at top four. It is not that it's impossible, but the team really has to step up because now every game becomes a final, right? And you would want your opponents to, someone like Chelsea or West Ham to lose one or, odd games here or there. Then the route to top four becomes more comfortable. In that sense, if I had to ask you, if you had to pick, one reason apart from injuries, what is the one big reason which you think Liverpool completely lost the plot in the first half of the season?
So the thing is that Liverpool in the first half was pretty clinical. After that, we lost our edge, and also Klopp has not adapted to the situations. He has been overplaying the players. Our front three has been playing for time immemorial. We do not have replacements for them. And after the Villa game, I thought our mentality got back, but we dropped another 4 points if you last minute goals. So that makes
Villa
our
game is
job
when
even
which
more
you lost
difficult.
7-2 or something like that, right?
No, this one where we won to one last
Oh,
match,
okay. The
friendly.
recent one. Okay.
So after that, we thought that we could go back to top four, but then we conceded a late goal to Leeds and then again to Newcastle.
In that sense, what you just said, right? Klopp has overplayed his players. He's used the same lineup again and again. Kishlay, I just wanted to ask you this, right? When you look at the Liverpool team and you look at the signings what Liverpool have made, you made a signing someone like Diego Jota who was supposed to, take over the mantle from the front three so that the burden reduces a bit. And he did take it over in the start of the season. But then gentleman got injured at the wrong time. Thiago Alcantara, who was supposed to be the savior of Liverpool's midfield, has just become an internet meme material of thumbs up. He's not clicked. And the obvious explanation what Liverpool fans gives is that there is no midfield cover for Thiago Alcantara. There is no Fabinho. There is no Henderson, which means Thiago Alcantara has to play a role which he's not comfortable playing at it. But I have a question in the sense that when you sign a player of Thiago Alcantara's capability, right? We all know that apart from Kevin De Bruyne and those likes of those players, Thiago Alcantara has got a vision to find his teammates at ease. He's been doing that for years in whichever clubs he's played. But the Thiago Alcantara, which you see at Liverpool right now, he's become more of a Louis van Gaal's product of side pass merchant. He just gets the ball, he passes it to the side, and then he shuts down. is it only the excuse what some Liverpool fans give, that there is no Fabinho to protect him, there is no Henderson who's the glue in that midfield, or do you really think Liverpool missed a trick by signing him, and instead of that we should have extended Wijnaldum's contract? Because both are different players, but Klopp expects Alcantara to play the role of Wijnaldum in a more or a less efficient manner.
Look, there are a couple of things actually. First thing is that almost everybody knows right now the reason behind signing Thiago Alcantara. Okay, so at one point in time, your game, the team, the way you control your play needs to evolve. If you look at Manchester City now, if you look at Real Madrid now, there is no shame in learning from. They are the best. They have been the best, or they are the best at this point in time. You will see that even in the matches where they apparently don't look in control, they are in control in a way or another. Okay, you can almost see all those triangles between Gundogan, Fernandinho, Rodri. They keep on playing that. They keep on playing that. Even when Liverpool was on song last season, we could see that these triangles appearing between these passing triangles, these passing lanes appearing between Henderson, Trent, and let's say Fabinho. Okay, so this gives us control and stability in the midfield. Now, the way Klopp sets up his team, he used to capitalize on chaos, actually. So they used to press like, a bunch of coordinated pressing, and then they wait for a mistake of the opponent, and then they would capitalize on
the
that
counters.
that has
because of the pace of what the front three is.
Yeah. But eventually, if you see, and it did not start right, just in this season only, it started some way back in the previous season also. Team simply gave up against Liverpool. And by giving up, it doesn't mean that they gave up the game. They gave up their intent of attacking for a vast majority of the game. So we have seen a lot of teams, probably even United will also, they will sit in a 5-4-1, or maybe even Atletico sat in a 6-4-0. Okay. So that kind
the
of
game
thing.
is still not out of your memory, right? That Atletico game is still not out of the system.
It's
and sometimes I really want Jose Mourinho to manage Liverpool, and then you will exactly know what disaster it is when you play that football and still get results. But I hear you. I completely hear you when you say that, that front three was so vibrant, that front three was so quick, that the moment it went on counters, it was just, you knew that the goal was coming, right?
But,
sorry. Go on.
Sorry, please go on. Oh,
yeah,
the most important. Oh, sorry, sir. Please go on. Yeah.
No, it's fine. What we are doing right now is exactly how United's midfield do. One decides to pass and the other decides to shut down. So I'll just go to Sharath. Sharath, you heard what Kishlai said, and it makes it makes a fair argument that, things have not gone for Liverpool. But on the other hand, United as a team has looked a different animal after the Spurs loss. Of course, we lost in between to Sheffield and, all those sorts of teams. But do you think there has been progress made this year? Because some fans say that you are still 10 points of City. What kind of progress is it? That's one set of fans. The other set of fans are saying that last year हमने तो सिर्फ 60 points लिया, अभी 67 पे है, 7 point का progress है, एक semi-final है. We went decently in the FA Cup and the EFL, but we eventually lost to the champion in EFL. That's one side of the argument. So do you really think has United made any progress this season, or do you think that it's a season of so much aberration, whatever United did was just push above the belt?
To be fair, progress here is a kind of a double-edged sword, because a lot of people look at progress in very different manners. Some of us look at it like, this player has been performing miles ahead than last time. Case in point, let's look at Dan James. He was brought in with very minimal expectations, literally to use his pace and to run the game. That is exactly what is expected of Dan James. You can't expect tricks out of him. You can't expect technique out of him. You are expecting his work rate. So when that person starts to perform in that role to a good extent, some people categorize it as progress.
Yeah.
Some of us tend to look at trophies. Trophies obviously nahi hai, and Ole has got a track record of losing in semis. Let's call the elephant in the room as it is. He has got a track record of losing in the semis, and that could be due to a variety of reasons. EFL, we lost to the eventual champions, true. Yeah. So I honestly believe there is obviously progress, but it is not to the extent where we quantify it to be something really good. Because we, as United, is technically an elite club. It is one of the most elite clubs in England.
Are we? Okay.
I mean, we have to hold ourselves to that standard. I mean, obviously, our posts are ex-Ferguson. There have been only very few times when we can actually put that mantle and say, okay, see, we've been the best team.
Or
That is very
work
few.
or perform like an elite club. That's been missing. And what Ole is trying to do is get that mentality back of an elite club.
True. Absolutely. But that being said, so every single time we decide to be something elite, and being elite also has to do a lot with how we approach different games against small teams, game against big teams, big six games, cup games. The moment we decide to go conservative is a fact that there is something in the back of our head that what if we lose this game? We want to minimize that risk, and that is why I'm going conservative.
For example, the Spurs game, right? After the Spurs game, suddenly Ole Gunnar Solskjaer found a new solace in Fred and McTominay. They both screen, and then your back four comes. So you're right in that manner where the doubt really creeps in your head and saying that, "Array, isse miss hua to my back four is exposed."
Exactly.
Right. So Kushal, I just want to take this ahead with you, and I'll just mention one name. Then you can say whatever you want about him. Okay. The name I obviously going to mention is Harry Maguire. Your turn, Kushal.
Okay, before coming to Harry Maguire, I was just listening to everyone and I want to add a few points to some things. So, for example, firstly, for Klopp, I feel that he's an exceptional manager. He's a brilliant manager. I love Klopp to the toes and to the head, but I feel his biggest mistake or biggest difficulty he's facing is to create the hunger. I feel that's his biggest difficulty right now, because this particular set of players have won the biggest trophy, biggest mantle that they can get. For example, the UCL, for example, the Premier League. They have won everything. I can understand Van Dijk is a huge impact player. Like, he's a brilliant defender. It comes once in a generation. I can understand everything. But missing one player cannot impact a team this much.
Fair.
And we can see that in the midfield. You ask the Liverpool fans, they will tell you how big the performances were from Henderson or from Wijnaldum or from any other midfielder last season. But where did that
This season,
performance
right?
go?
Even Curtis Jones, right? He has stepped
Curtis
up.
Jones. Yes, Curtis Jones has
Playing
stepped
like
up.
as if he belongs in this place.
Exactly
right?
my point.
And I
Exactly.
remember Harvey Elliott also, to a certain extent, played as if, boss, this is my stage and this is where I'm going to play. But then didn't last long.
Didn't last long. And also, I'll tell you why that started, because these players are new players. These players are coming from a rank. And these players still have the hunger, because they know that we were not part of the squad that won the Champions League or the Premier League. We want to be. Various players like Mane, players like Firmino, players like Henderson or Wijnaldum, or players like them, they're already means for Wijnaldum, I can say he's already looking for better contracts outside. Means you can understand, like, for
It
one
is not
reason,
a team anymore. It is not a cohesive team where one guy is already thinking of life outside, the other guy is not in form. The leader is injured, the captain is injured. It's a broken team now.
Broken
it's a
team,
team
and
of
also
individuals who are
and also-
completely dissociated from Liverpool Football Club now, in a
Correct,
certain
correct.
extent.
Correct. And also, like, they need to find some, you talk about any big player or big manager, they'll find excuses to give you to keep that hunger alive. You talk about Alex Ferguson. That guy, I'm just giving an example. I'm not comparing any other manager with him, but I'm just giving an example. That guy has built 3 different teams in generation wise, but somehow he managed to keep that hunger alive, even after winning league after league or even trophies after trophies. So that's a big thing when it comes to managers.
Same I will say for Arsene Wenger. He's already managed to keep Arsenal in top 4 year after year. Whatever the challenges are, whatever. I mean, as much as Arsenal are a banter club, of course, respect where they deserve. I mean, there are some managers who find the least of circumstances but make the maximum out of it. And you rightly mentioned about Alex Ferguson, and I don't even want to go to modern day managers like Pep Guardiola and stuff, because
I was going to mention Pep
yeah,
Guardiola
because I think the common argument with Pep Guardiola, what everyone thinks is, "Bhai paisa de do, wo trophy jitega." It's
I
not
don't
that.
think that's the I don't
No,
think that's the
it
case.
is
It's
not
never
that.
the case.
And I just want to add it to that defense part before I actually ask you about Harry Maguire again, just to remind you that that was the question.
Yeah, I'll come to
Okay,
that. Yeah.
well, I just have this kind of a notion to, that's my perspective of seeing football, right? I can give you $1 billion in the bank. You can sign the best players in the world you want. Real Madrid have done that with Galacticos, and you can ask them. It was a mistake because they could not win. Because to win, you need a team of 17 to 18 individuals. No, it is not 11, it is not 15. It is 17 to 18. You ask any old generation United fans, like let's say Kushal, I'm calling him old, I'm young. So, or to a certain extent to me, what we have seen with United is that it's not the first 15 who make the difference. There are games when someone like an Owen Hargreaves comes and scores that goal against Arsenal. He's not a regular. Then there are games like West Brown, who's not regular, but he comes in and slots in. Park Ji-sung does not play regularly. Yesterday's press conference in IPL at CSK, I was just listening to what Dhoni was saying, and Dhoni said, it is very easy to motivate someone who's in the 11 or the first 13, because, eventually you're going to play. But people who are not playing in the 11, they motivate the squad more than what I can motivate these 11 players, because if they are not in the right frame of mind, right, the entire dressing room is not proper. And Kushal rightly touched upon it. When you said that, Wijnaldum is already looking at Ronald Koeman and thinking, अच्छा मेरा national team का भी खेलने का chance है, बारसा में थोड़ा exposure भी अच्छा मिलेगा, बड़ा contract भी मिलेगा. His mind, one eye is already looking at that. Liverpool have not been able to strike a deal with him. Suddenly there is a loss of form of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson, who have been phenomenal players for Liverpool. One of the key two main players where the system is entirely built, right? Like how
And
Kishlay said, the triangles, how they form.
rightfully the best fullback of the year. I'll give them that.
Fair enough. You can argue
yeah.
that whatever you want, but they are deserving to where they are. And
exactly.
Of course, things have not worked out. Jordan Henderson has got injured. Yes, Van Dijk injury, agreed. Jordan Pickford should have done that long back. Some fans, my rival fans might say, but for people like me, I absolutely hated what Jordan Pickford did. That was innocuous, but still very stupid. You can't get onto a tackle like that. It is lame. You as an individual cannot do that. But take care, whatever has happened, and Van Dijk is a strong character. We've seen him that he's already sitting on the benches for matches. I mean, he's coming as a spectator, obviously. You see his impact when you see your best player sitting on the sidelines, right? If you are, let's say, someone who's been, I know that the guy who you recently signed from Preston, Ben Davis, he hasn't played much. So if he looks at Van Dijk and he says that, what, I need to impress Van Dijk, that's a sort of attitude which big players rub on. How Rio Ferdinand always says that Ronaldo tried to impress all of us every day because he wanted our validation. Liverpool are missing that. And I agree with Kushal. But before we talk a lot about Liverpool, and I'm kind of getting annoyed with it, Kushal, Harry Maguire, please.
Yeah. So coming to Harry Maguire, I feel that I'll tell you very honestly, like I have seen a lot of validations, a lot of statements from people who have not followed EPL or United this particular season.
Kushal, sorry to interrupt. Before you answer about Harry Maguire, I remember a post about Harry Maguire in our Facebook group, and I just have to ask that post to you. Harry Maguire has not won a single trophy. He's been part of 3 teams who have been continuously relegated, whatever. And you know who I'm referring to and what kind of post it is, right? But when United signed him for 75, 80 odd million, of course, we are not expecting him to replace Van Dijk, because some fans imagine that, अच्छा, same पैसा दिया है तो same quality भी होगा. 80 million नहीं तो देने का मतलब नहीं ना. Demand और supply का economics हर किसी को नहीं समझ में आता. ठीक है? When we signed Van Dijk, he's had a turbulent year, the incident in Greece, etc., etc. But since then, the gentleman hasn't put a foot wrong. Of course, he's had those 1 or 2 mistakes where he tackled his own teammates, the ball went for a corner, a ball went for a goal, etc., etc. But he is doing a job which we wanted him to do the job, right? It is just that we don't play a 3-5-2. That's why he looks so odd. But the same Harry Maguire, when he goes to England and when England plays a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3, Harry Maguire looks like a bloody beast. It's like, ha bhai, tu aaja. It does not matter who you are. Is it lack of United not using him properly? or is it just that probably we didn't sign the right kind of center back, which was needed back then?
Yeah. Actually, a very valid question, because I have seen this question coming from a lot of fans.
Hmm.
So I'll address us very, very, very fluently. Like, I'll tell you, a very simple reason is that Harry Maguire, firstly, Leicester
Yeah.
season had a brilliant season.
Yeah.
Where he gained his name, got his England selection.
Correct.
World Cup, had a great World Cup.
Yeah.
Performing in the White Lions jersey, had a brilliant World Cup. Coming back, obviously, we all know an English player playing in Premier League, his value has to surpass, man. Like, players
And
like,
if Man United is interested, it has to go
and
at least
that's
10-20 million. तो
yeah,
ऐसा
yeah.
मतलब ठीक है, बढ़ा दो यार इसके लिए.
Glazers and Woodward is targeting a player, so 60 million plus 15 million add-on. Add-on is
मतलब
like
वो उनके नाम पे डाल दें.
chutia banane ka technique. That's fine. That's fine. So not a problem. But yeah. So coming back to Harry Maguire, I'll tell you very honestly. Last season, yeah, he was okayish, but still, I'll tell you, he didn't drop out of a single game. He played almost every single game.
Correct.
As a professional athlete, we need to keep this in mind. This season, Harry Maguire is the highest playing player. Like, he has been playing every single game.
56 games, I think.
Exactly, 56 games. And like, he has been dropped off. I guess I remember only one game where he was dropped.
Suspended last game.
Suspended. Yes, he was suspended. So you can imagine, from a professional athlete point of view, this guy has been giving us numbers that we expect from an athlete, not a footballer.
मतलब 10 रुपए का पगार दो और 100 रुपए का काम कराओ type.
Exactly. Because I'll tell you, like LeBron James said in one of the interview, I'm just bringing basketball for a random reason.
It's okay. You can bring any sport as long as the name does not involve Tiger Woods and the controversy what he faces. It's okay.
Yeah. So LeBron James said in one interview that the biggest thing that I can give to my teammates is to be available in every single game that I'm playing. Or my
Such a
team
big
is
statement,
playing.
right? I mean, you
That's
think
a
about
huge
LeBron
statement.
James and the magnitude of what he is.
Exactly.
He just made it so simple that the biggest thing I can give to you is that me being available.
Me being available. That's what I understand, that Maguire is not that great a player, but him being available is someone we can rely, our manager or a coach can rely on every single day. Okay, that's one position that I don't need to worry about. Ki, acha, this guy is injured. I need to think of some second choice, third choice, fourth choice. So I have one guy who is absolutely reliable. Now coming to this season, I'll say, barring the first 10 games where he made 2 mistakes, I remember those 2 mistakes. Apart from that, that guy has not set a foot wrong this season.
Fair.
Not a foot wrong. And also, I have seen him commanding the back line, not only the offside trap, but also I'll still say he's our best ball playing defender. In spite of Lindelof giving those.
Any ball playing, अभी वही ball play करता है.
And then you talk to many United fans, they'll give you 5 clips where Lindelof has given a long pass from defense to Rashford, and Rashford has scored a goal from the. Yeah.
I remember that tweet. Tony Cruz-esque pass by Lindelof.
Tony Cruz. Yeah.
Someone tagged me in it, and I was like, Tony Cruz, as far as my memory goes, he played for Real Madrid. United कब आया है ये? Then I saw, oh, this is Victor Lindelof's pass. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what, like, people claim with those 5 passes or 6 passes in his whole career at United that he's a better ball playing player. But honestly, I'll tell you, Maguire, we don't need a replacement of Maguire currently. We need a replacement of Lindelof. We need a fast ball playing defender. I don't have a problem with Maguire. I'll tell you, Maguire is not at the level of Nemanja Vidic. Vidic was legendary. Vidic was a brilliant defender, but Vidic had one problem. He was not that fast as well. So to compare that, to compensate that, we need the partnership. If a guy is slow, we need a fast ball playing defender or a fast normal defender there. So that's why, if you have seen few games where Eric Bailly and Maguire has started, our defensive partnership looked much better.
Yeah, and Rash also. and risky also.
But yeah, that's Bailey. That's what you get with Eric Bailey. That's there.
Fair
But
enough,
I'll tell
Kushal.
you.
I agree with most part of your argument, and
I-
I'll not use the word rant because it was very passionate. But there
yeah.
are some parts which I don't agree. But I'll just move on. One of the part where I don't agree is that
Is
I'll not be as stupid enough, as a player or even a professional to compare, Nemanja Vidic and Maguire because they're two different kind of players. Okay,
no,
one.
I'm not. I
Second,
was not
no, no, I
comparing in the
understood what you
first
meant.
place.
I completely understood.
Yeah.
The profile is different. They also didn't have pace, etc.
Yeah.
etc. I totally agree with you. I also agree with you the fact that Maguire is being overplayed. 101%. There is no two ways. But I don't agree the fact that Victor Lindelof needs a replacement. And I'll tell you my personal opinion on it.
Hmm.
Agreed. Victor Lindelof is not quick. He's a little bit slower than Maguire. He cannot head the ball. He cannot do anything what other people want to do. But the last time we faced Liverpool, right? Maguire was caught again and again and again. There was only one man who stopped the front three of Liverpool, which was Victor Lindelof. Maguire took one blow in the game, but it was Victor Lindelof who took Mane, Salah, and Firmino out of the game. I'm not comparing one game basis, but in general, I'm okay with Harry Maguire as a centre back, but United signing a centre back is not my top priority. United signing a centre defensive midfielder is my top priority because I'm sick and tired of Fred McTominay. Because not that they're bad, बस अभी कुछ मतलब जिंदगी में वैरायटी लाओ यार भाई बस हो गया वो कंजर्वेटिव अप्रोच बस हो गया. So if I had the money, if I had to break the bank, I'll forget Sancho, whatever. I don't want to mention his name. I would go and pay that money to Wilfred Ndidi and I'll say, भाई तू आ जा इधर. जो भी है तेरे लिए जैसा भी हो तेरा क्लब जो भी है I'll sign it. But moving on, Saisudeep, it's been long since we're speaking to United and I'll just come to you in that sense. Whatever Kushal has said is a different part of the story, but I want to understand from your perspective, Saisudeep, what Kushal just said, right? Sometimes as a manager, you are not able to start the hunger for players. Is that the case? What happened with Liverpool? Because it is very hard for me to believe that someone like Jurgen Klopp, who has seen the worst of worst in football, he's seen the best of the best in football. He does not have any reason to motivate this 15-20 players. Do you think that is one factor because of which Liverpool lost, or it was just pure bad luck overall? I mean, there is no possible rational explanation to this.
See, even after the Van Dijk injury, we were still top of the table, but we dipped after the Gomez one, especially.
तू top of the table छोड़ दे, Spurs भी था, Everton भी था. वो इस साल का table is an aberration.
Still, we were top at Christmas. After 19 games, it's still a decent enough season until then.
You were top. I thought you were third, right? After 19 games.
After Christmas, we were top. After 19 games, maybe we were third. I don't know.
Okay, I don't know. I don't remember. Fair.
So, as for the motivation of players, so I have seen that Mane and Firmino are missing a lot of chances lately and do not have any competition for their places in the middle. Now they have Jota for competition, so obviously they are doing better. But for the 3 months Jota was out, they were actually competing with Origi and Shaqiri, who have been finished long back, if I speak in very honest opinion. So it was only Salah scoring goals, and from midfield there was Thiago who was putting pressure, but otherwise Wijnaldum and Fabinho had their spots reserved. Pretty much it is same for our backup fullbacks. Tsimikas and Nico Williams are nowhere near Trent and Robo, so they have also their spot secured. And for backup keepers, we have Adrian, and nothing more to say about that. So more or less, our front team have their spot secured. There is nobody putting pressure on them for their places. So that led to a bit of complacency, which was not there in last 2 seasons since we had something to win. Now that we have something to retain, maybe complacency crept in, and also our owners and a lot of other things happened, and it all coincided in this.
We will not talk about the lot of other things which happened. Not because it is bad, it is just because both our clubs were involved to a certain extent about a lot of bad things which happened. And like Gary Neville said, it was an attempt to murder English football. All those sort of stuff. But I hear you. Sharath, I want to ask you this question before I move to Kishlay. What Saisudeep said, it makes sense, right? Whatever injury, etc., all those things. The coming game for United is as big as a final, the one against Roma, right? And then United are going to play Liverpool. So it will be very interesting for all United fans to see what will be the lineup of Manchester United versus Liverpool, because we don't know what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has in his head. I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is like that Christmas Santa who can give you the maximum happiness when you don't expect, like defeating City. All those triangles which Kishley said, right? Those triangles did not exist against the game against United because we made that a big circle and we kept running City in that circle. Okay. It happens with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We made the best pressing team, Leipzig, look like fools when they visited Old Trafford. And we have also seen Sheffield United coming and taking the laugh out of us out of nothing. So there is highs and lows. In that sense, it's a big game. I know there are only 3 players who are fixed in this lineup. 4 players who I know are fixed. Okay, and I'm not even joking. Okay, the first player who I think is fixed is left winger Paul Pogba. Okay, I know that is fixed. That is not going to change. Fred McTominay in the middle. That is not going to change. And the 4th player who I think is not going to change is Harry Maguire. These 4 are fixed. बाकी 7 जन का मेरे को कुछ पता नहीं है कौन. Aaron Wan-Bissaka also more or less fixed because और कोई right back बचा नहीं है club
Even
में.
Bruno is fixed.
Even Bruno is fixed.
Yeah, oh yeah, 6 तो हो ही गया. So okay, fine. I mean, can you go and predict the lineup what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to play against Liverpool?
The thing is, see, before we talk about highs and lows, it's also to be understood that the one of the primary reasons we were talking about a lot of progress last time, right? This momentum that is generated when we played the same lineup, which is the reason. Our whole predicament right now is because these players at one point of time somehow performed. The fact that Fred and McTominay were found reliable, see, again, opinions. I have never found them reliable. But that being said, there was some point of time where it felt that, okay,
yeah, 2 goals against Leeds.
इनको रख दो तो काम हो जाएगा. And that led to where we are right now. That being said, it's going to be the same 4-3-3 again, because like we know, 4 defenders, 2 people to counter the 4 behind, like 2 people to hold the fort, total 6. The whole idea again is going to be the same. Try to hold them off as much as possible.
Sit back and soak pressure, hit as soon as you get space.
Exactly, precisely. One thing that actually can motivate us is how Ole decides to talk to his team before the game. Because, see, let's face it, Liverpool are, even though they're at their lows right now, are still a very formidable opponent. They have got still amazing players. They're not nowhere like, they have not fallen below rungs.
Yeah, they're not in relegation zone, right?
Exactly.
They are still just 2 points off top 4, 3 points off top 4.
Precisely. And especially in terms of momentum, like we talk, like may not be up to Bruno level, but Diogo Jota has punched way above his weight. And he's someone who can terrify our defense too. That being said, if Ole decides, if he wants to actually motivate his team saying, see, this is the moment you can take, this might not be the best Liverpool. And now if you go there, you want to take a result and come out. Yeah. Obviously, expecting it is very high. But that being said, this is what I would want.
I like your optimism, man. Itna optimism United players mein hai, pata nahi, but theek hai, I like your optimism. But so more or less your 11 is confirmed, right? I mean, when you say that it's going to be Dean Henderson, we all know Dean Henderson is going to start. David De Gea's time as a United first choice keeper in Premier League is as good as over now. Ole has
nostalgia said, I think so it is fair to accept it. That it's over. I mean, it was good.
Yeah, I feel bad, but it is how it is. Right.
Exactly. I mean, everyone has their time, and see, we've got legends all across time, but we also have some point in time have to bid them adieu. It could be
that's a sad part of football, right? It's business at the end of the day. It's who's going to help me run my club better in that sense. So it's going to be Dean Henderson. It's going to be Luke Shaw. It's going to be Harry Maguire, Lindelof, or Eric Bailly.
It'll definitely be Lindelof, because we have seen this pattern for so many times where we think about the option.
I was thinking, acha,
because the thing is, hum log expect karte hain, and then one fine day the article. See, I remember one statement by Ole where he vividly said, "I am resting Lindelof for the next big game that is coming."
Yeah, and he didn't start him.
Thrown in Lindelof in the rough end. Exactly. So that being said, it's very easy to predict that the back 4 is not going to be changed. He's gone with that against all teams, and I don't
the midfield pivot is not changing. Number 10 is Bruno Fernandes. On the left wing is Pogba. On the right wing, I think will be Mason Greenwood. Rashford as number 9.
That is, see, now Rashford, Greenwood, see, you cannot throw out the option that he might play James tomorrow against Liverpool.
Of all the things what we said, we haven't mentioned the only number 9 who's present in Manchester United. No, it is not Anthony Martial. He's not a number 9. He only wears the jersey. So let it be as good as the jersey. But we have not mentioned Edinson Cavani. And this way I want to go to Kishley. Okay, Kishley, Liverpool as a club has seen some greatest strikers who has played this game, right? You talk about Michael Owen, you talk about Fowler, then you also talk about a guy who famously left for 50 million to Chelsea. You've seen the best strikers who played as a number 9. Of course, they're not traditional number 9. Michael Owen is not a traditional number 9. He's still a striker. And you have seen front three of what Salah, Mane, Firmino has done. When you look at the different breed of strikers, and then you have a 34-year-old guy called as Edinson Cavani, in terms of your rival's lens, right? How much of big of a threat is Edinson Cavani if he starts as a number 9? Would you be okay if it was, Rashford or Daniel James starting, but not Edinson Cavani? You're like, nahi yaar, wo number 9 hai. If he gets inside the box, thoda sa weak defense hai, he will score. While would you be okay to face someone like a Rashford or a Greenwood? They are young, they can be bullied, they can just be pushed off. Who would you be more okay to face?
For Edinson Cavani, I have mad respect for him because he's just hands down an extremely good and very accomplished striker. I'll have to say that.
Underrated as
there is no rivalry. Definitely not overrated is what I'm going to say. He is equally rated is what I'm going for, because Edinson Cavani had a lot of hype since the days of Napoli. And the thing that I observe about Edinson Cavani is that for any great striker, actually, with their age, they evolve their game.
Correct.
So he used to be, let's say, kind of a Arkadiusz Milik and Edinson Dzeko type striker who, or you can compare them with him. No, let me come to the point. While he was young, so he used to have his pace, he used to have his power. Okay, so and he used both with and also his head in a very equal manner, and he used to create goals with both his left foot, right foot, and head. But right now, what he is doing is he has changed. He is very intricately shifting himself into the gaps that the defender leave behind.
Those blind spots behind defenders which they can't track.
Yes. So first thing is you can't track him. Okay, track him. That is a very important thing for any striker actually. So he has become an extremely accomplished penalty box striker.
Okay, yeah, Fernando Torres did it all his life at Liverpool, right? I mean, the man used
Fernando
to just
Torres was
run
more
behind.
About channel, more about running into channel. Yeah.
No, and but Fernando Torres in that sense, forget running the channel. I mean, that he had explosive pace back then. But even after the injury, Fernando Torres was still good because he made those runs where other people did not expect him to run. I'm not saying that Edinson Cavani is equal to Fernando Torres or less or more. That's a comparison which is up for debate, and people can compare what they want, because for me, if there was one striker who ignited fear in me, was Fernando Torres when he played for Liverpool. Not because he bullied Ferdinand and Vidic and all that sort of stuff. It was because I hated strikers who are hungry to score goals. I absolutely hated them because for me, growing up as a United fan, my favorite player, there were two posters which I had. One was of David Beckham because I wanted a hairstyle like him, and my school never allowed it, thankfully, which I think is thankful now. And the second player's poster I had was Ruud van Nistelrooy. I absolutely loved Ruud van Nistelrooy because, for me, a great striker is the one who's hungry to score that scrappy goal. Yeah, it's easy to score a 40-yard, 50-yard goal because you have the technique, you are a professional footballer. You will still score it. I mean, you are bound to score one of those beautiful goals in your heyday or in your prime, whatever you want to call it as. But to score that scrappy goal when the ball is inside the box, there are 5 defenders who are trying to kick the ball, and then the striker comes and just hits the ball for goal. That joy of a striker, right? Fernando Torres gave to Liverpool for years. I mean, I'll never forget that goal against Sunderland where it was just on the bounce and he just hit it. I was like, my goodness, that's a killer blow. You're right that way, Kishley. What Edinson Cavani does, he creates goals just because of his movement. I mean, half the goals is because of his movement, not because of his pace. And in a way, you're right. This is where I want to go to Kushal. We've spoken about Edinson Cavani as a striker who's very different. Now there is a striker like Mohamed Salah. I'll not classify him as a striker, but he's a forward player, a player who plays at the up front for Liverpool. He's entirely different from the threat of Edinson Cavani. It's not that Salah is not a great header of the ball. He's average header of the ball, but Salah's biggest strength is his pace, his acceleration. And once inside the box, right, you have to be special to stop Salah. He will not miss a chance inside the box because he's so lethal. He's been doing that, scoring 20 odd goals in Premier League for consecutive times, three times, right? Sai Sudeep and Kishle. First player, Liverpool's player to score 20 plus goals, three consecutive.
He had 19 last season, and
Yeah.
all the others he has been about 20.
Yeah, right. So he has to be special. That's why he's rated as one of the best players in the world. If you are a United defender, how do you think you're going to tackle someone like Mohamed Salah? Because time and again, we as United fans have seen that we get troubled by players who are quick. For example, Harry Kane sold Harry Maguire in that Spurs goal. He just sold him. It was a joke after a point of time. You're like, my God, Harry Kane is not even that quick. Now you're going to come against a player of the quality of Mohamed Salah, who is going to be lethal. He will wait for that, like Kishlai said, right? There will be moments in the game where it will be cagey. United will give space. The Liverpool front three will run. At that point of time, how do you tackle someone like Mo Salah? Do you play very compact? Do you play a high line? Or do you just say play man to man?
So I'll just comment on the trend that Ole has been following, especially against Liverpool. So if you have noticed the previous games, how we have configured against Liverpool, so it's very simple.
My God, that's annoying. I don't want to remember all that Alisson wala throw and then Salah runs. Nahi bhai, wo sab mein koi yaad mat dila.
Yeah, it's annoying because I feel that I'm not belittling Ole over here, but I feel that Ole feels that 1 point gained is a 1 point means 1 point attended is a 1 point gained. So it's something like that. When it's a 1 point win for him, it's not a 2 point loss, but it's a 1 point win for him. So
unlike Sir Alex Ferguson, right, where he hated draws.
Yeah, unlike many other managers, but I feel I don't want to blame him or anything, but I feel with his experience and with his capability, like tactical capability, I think that's fair. I won't judge him. Yeah. So what I'll expect of Ole is for Salah and Mane, both is like AWB and both Shaw. They will be very much in a grasping distance of their players. Like there has to be a shoulder to shoulder distance over there. Like there shouldn't be much more space. And if there's a space, it has to be only when our fullbacks have gone forward. So as Sharath mentioned, we won't be surprised if we suddenly see a Dan James in the lineup. I won't be surprised as well. Because I expect that because Liverpool completely relies on their wings now, because honestly, to tell you, they don't have anything in midfield currently. They don't have. And
it's compared to what they had, it's non-existent midfield.
Non-existent. Yeah. So say if I'm Ole and if I'm smart enough, what I'll do is I'll put a I'll tell you, I'll put a Paul Pogba in my midfield, because I know that Paul Pogba will bully all the other three midfielders, Liverpool midfielders.
People like you're saying.
Okay. He has that capability. So even if I want to put Dan James, then I have two strong wingers. One is Rashford, one is Dan James. If I am doing that. But I know he'll go for a traditional back CDM2 of Fred and McTominay. So I'm not expecting anything. But to answer your question, yes, I am expecting it will be a very tight and a very compact defense that Ole will be shifting in, just to put in, because see, for Liverpool, not just wing, the wing backs are also into picture.
Correct.
So, so there has to be one place, or our wingers have to take that responsibility to track them down as well.
Fair enough. I hear what you're saying and it makes sense to me. But before I actually ask you out your predictions for the game, let me go to Sai Sudeep first. Sai Sudeep, these two teams, right, United and Liverpool, are the, let's say, torch bearers of English football to a certain extent. You can have an Arsenal, you can have a City, Chelsea, all those sort of clubs, but these two are the biggest clubs in English football. And they've had some iconic battles, if you think about it, there are a lot of games where there was nothing at stake, but still these two teams were absolutely at it. There is no mercy here. There has to be a winner, unlike what Ole said to Bielsa, that it can't be a 0-0 draw, but it turned out to be. This has to be a game which has got a lot of promise, a lot of bite, a lot of sting in that game, right? In terms of all the United versus Liverpool games, which has been your favorite and which has been your worst, which you have seen as a fan?
See, before addressing the question, I would like to say that there is a documentary on United and Liverpool in which
Yeah.
they say both the clubs have disasters, both the clubs have Champions League comeback, both the clubs have European heritage.
Hmm.
We are just basically two football teams. We are like two religions, having everything and hating just the other one. As for my favorite game, this has already been mentioned a lot of times in this podcast itself. The 4-1 win in March 2009, the one in which we were looking to challenge for the title. So Vidic, Torres literally destroyed Vidic, and then Gerrard kissed the camera. And then I vividly remember Dosana and Aurelio finished the round.
Yeah,
And
Dos Santos lob, right, and Fabio Aurelio's free kick. I'll never forget the game.
And as for the worst memory, it would have to be that Steven Gerrard last match against United, red card in 38 seconds.
And
I
the
cannot
header.
think of
The
that would
straight
be
line,
my-
right? I remember the heat map. It was a straight line.
Abhi,
Fair
it
enough.
was not an actual actual heat map.
Yeah, whatever. I know what it meant. But okay. I didn't want to drag it that manner, man. Let's all be cordial to Liverpool fans. They're very nice people. Kishlay, what is your favorite memory? Is it different from what Saisudeep said? Favorite and your worst memory?
My favorite memory is same as Saisudeep's. I have actually two favorite memories. One is that, obviously, like any other Liverpool fans. And second one is where Darkout scored, I think, 10-yard hat-trick. Yeah. And Luis Suarez just destroyed. I mean, that is the best I have seen Luis Suarez play against any team. I mean, he has played a lot better than. And bad memory, yeah, I would say the Gerrard one did not hurt me that much, because at that point in time we were almost preparing to give Gerrard a send off. So I mean, that's okay. It hurt. But the one that hurt most is where I think Berbatov scored 4 goals against us.
3 goals, hat-trick, 3-2.
Goals.
We won at 3-2.
He scored a hat-trick and including a back volley also, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
absolutely
so,
right.
I mean, I admire probably one of the United players that I admire a lot is Berbatov. He was a great player and it really hurt. And at that point in time,
he's the right player at the wrong time for United.
Yeah, he's
proper
extremely
striker,
good.
but just wrong timing. Fair. Sharath, I'll go to you first. What is your favorite memory of beating Liverpool?
I was actually surprised because I was planning to use the trump card of Berbatov 3-2 because
of course, man, for every United fan,
around
that has to be one of the top memories.
6-7 is when I started watching. So it's the initial phase where you're like just getting into understanding, why you're supporting this club, and then this match happens. So I'm like, okay, let's let him live. And then Berbatov goes ahead and he does that overhead kick. And at that point of time, I'm amazed. I'm like, this is supposed to be an age-old rivalry, and he has the audacity to go and perform that.
Yeah.
That being said, worst memory has to be 4-1 because that was a gut punch. It felt bad, and there was a point where you felt traumatized. See, देखो 4 goal मार के चले गए, and we're just looking. And Dosena, if it's 4 by Torres, let's say, fine, cool. Yeah. We are having defenders and we're having people who generally don't.
Fabio Aurelio, मतलब life में भाई ने 2-3 free kick लिया रहेगा, उसका भी free kick goal चला गया.
Exactly, and that went in. And that was kind of, मतलब ऐसे अजीब लगता है कि after the match you're thinking, okay, this was actually a punch in the gut, because that is Alex Ferguson over there in his prime, like rummaging through teams, and suddenly he finds a 4-1 loss. And
Steven Gerrard magic that day, man. Can't help it. Can't do much. Right. Kushal, do you have any other memories different from what these people said, or is it the same? Your turn, by the way.
Not exactly a memory. Like, I haven't seen that match live, but like I had seen that match live, but I was a very young kid at that point of time. I didn't understand.
Which means you're old now, but okay, fine.
Yeah, I remember that match where I think it was a FA Cup or something like that, where Gary Neville sends a hoop from defense. Dwight York receives it and scores it. Like, it was 89th minute. Like, I think it was a 99 season.
98-99 treble winning season.
99 treble winning season for the FA Cup. So there, I think that was in the last minutes we scored that goal, and it was 2-1.
Fair.
So that was like, my dad was a huge football fan. He's a huge football fan. So I got that from dad. So I started following regularly from 2002. But before that, whatever I saw, it's like vague memories. But I saw that match, the full highlights later on. and that's a very good memory. Apart from that, like live matches, as everyone has mentioned, Berbatov 1 is like magical to everyone. That guy, the technical ability he had, I think none other striker possesses that close to that. And worst memory, I'll say, you bring in Torres, any matches were like very, very
Not
bad
the
for
one where
me.
he missed an open goal from Chelsea.
No,
That's not the
no,
one.
I'm talking about Torres of Liverpool. So Torres at Liverpool like gave us very bad matches, man. Like for a United fan, I used to
Fernando Torres is one guy who will always hate from the bottom
Yeah.
of our heart, because he made the two best defenders look like absolute amateurs. If I have to put it in actual terms, that if I'm going to play football with a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old, right, I'll just bully him like, tired man. And Fernando Torres just did that to two players who were absolutely at the peak of their powers. Fair enough. I actually have a very different memory, very honestly. My best memory of United beating Liverpool is in the 2008 season, okay, where Pepe Reina was class. That game, Pepe Reina was absolutely magical. But then we had a guy, we signed this skinny, lanky kid, who made his debut and all that. And then uska ek duplicate bhi sign kiya tha, Nani karke. And then Wes Brown ka ek assist tha goal mein. So we won against Liverpool 3-0, 2008. He scored 3 goals and it was Cristiano Ronaldo, absolute show. It was a mayhem. Thankfully, Javier Mascherano decided to do what he does the best, take a red card and go back, which he was clinical. That was one of the best games I've ever seen United. Of course, the Berbatov one stands right up there. But for me, that United team is what was my teenage, that was my life at back then when I think back. Because I used to watch that United and think, this is where my life is. This is the pace in which I want to grow myself in life. This speed. I used to look at all those sort of stuff, and that was magical. Of course, the worst one has to be Steven Gerrard and the kiss to the camera and whatnot. And it got a bit annoying after a point of time, especially with Fabio. And I got most pissed when Fernando Torres bullied when the ball just landed on the head. He just pushed off Vidic. He was like, chal, side mein. And he just ran with the ball, and I was like, what am I watching?
No. It was the ball didn't land on his head. Basically,
it just fell it, and he just pushed off.
That was the first mistake Vidic did. He didn't head the ball directly. He allowed the ball to have one more drop.
One more bounce.
And that's where Torres came in.
What irked me more was, wo samne jo striker hai na, he is not one of your friends. Dude, he plays for your rival club. You don't give him that 10% chance in a game, because he's waiting for that 1% chance, and you game 50. Of course, he has to score. But then, these two teams have played some iconic games, and I'm sure this week as well, it is going to be iconic for one of them. As much as we all want a result, I know it's not going to go that way. But moving on, Kishle, what are your predictions for the game?
You asked me?
Yep.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, my prediction is 1-1.
Oh, you're expecting United to score one. Good one. I like that optimism. Fair enough.
I'm expecting our defenders to concede one, actually.
Okay, fair enough. Sharath, what about you?
0-0, like I was saying from the start. Don't expect much urgency from both teams, considering the run of form that they're in, and the conservativeness that we usually see in these matches. Okay. So I think 0-0 should be a
fair. Any change, guys? Kushal or Sai Sudeep, do you agree with 1-1, 0-0?
It will be a draw for me as well. I don't think any side will take initiative and go out to win the game.
Fair. Okay. Kushal?
I don't think this time it will be a draw, because I feel Klopp has his back against the wall, and he has to get some result out of this match. So
I don't think so, but I know what you mean. I mean, he is under the pump a little bit, but unlike some other managers who got sacked before the cup final, he's not under that pressure. So, I mean, sorry, I don't know who that manager is. Some guy from Portugal. I don't know. Poor guy. I feel bad for him. Should have at least let him stay till the final.
Jesse Marsch.
I know, is that the same guy who took half of your fan base? I don't know.
Yeah, same guy.
Yeah.
That guy. I mean, Kishle, I'm telling something which I think is not the ideal manner to describe the gentleman, but it's a quote which I read it in an autobiography of Jose Mourinho. Not autobiography, it's a biography of Jose Mourinho during his Chelsea tenure. And there is a beautiful quote on Jose Mourinho. He's a man hated by all unless he's yours. That's the sad part of Jose Mourinho. If he's yours, you would do anything to defend him because he instigates that kind of passion in you. That's what Jose Mourinho does.
But not in third season, man. Not in third season.
Yeah.
But उसके बाद जो hangover होता है ना किशले, वो साफ करने के लिए ना तू जितना
like
दारू पी सकता है पी ले,
जैसा है.
उसके बाद नहीं होएगा कुछ.
Slope जैसा है.
Yeah,
First
yeah.
season
I
में
mean-
you are very passionate, and then third season तक तो you are like, please चले जाओ.
Then by the third season,
Stay
you look
away.
at the guy and say, you know what Arsenal fans did to Arsene Wenger? Thank you for your memories, but it is time to say goodbye. भाई चले जा. मतलब जो
Sure,
तेरा
well,
severance
so-
package है लेके चले जा तो. It's the same. But
Yeah, it's
anyways,
the same.
sorry, go on.
No,
You're
it's
saying
the
something?
same. Yeah.
So, guys, anyways, it's been a fun time chatting with you, and I expected a lot of fire from you people, but you were very nice and calm, which I think is exactly how the game is going to be, because both the teams are like, हाँ भाई अभी fixture है, खेलना है बोल के खेलते हैं अपन. They have other priorities, and I really hope when United face Liverpool next time, I hope the world is a little bit normal. I hope fans get onto the stadium. That's more important, because games like this is nothing without fans. They are this game, right? You can take 22 players and keep the ball in between and get those 3 points, but the game becomes more iconic when you listen the cop chanting, when you listen the Stretford End going berserk after a goal, etc., etc. But I really hope that by the time next time when we are recording this podcast, we are live, we are actually sitting somewhere in a common place and discussing football, and the world is at a lot nicer place. I know things are not good in India right now, and it's getting tough. Things will get better. Weekend is the only time when Premier League comes on form, and the small amount of happiness what we get for those 90 minutes. I hope
Not
these
for
players
us.
realize
Not for
it.
us. Not for
Right.
us.
I hope for my happiness will start in the next 1 hour now when United face Roma, and then after that 1.5 hour I'll be like, क्या हो गया, क्या देख लिया, इससे अच्छा
How
जाके सो ही जाता
cute.
था.
How cute, Sharat. Prashant is describing that 1 hour as happiness.
Happiness. Optimism.
Okay, guys. I am thankful for you people for joining in. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you people. Thanks a lot once again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you for
everyone.
thank you for
Yeah.
us.